Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be reading chapter 4 called Chameleon. And I'm just trying to adjust my window here. Maybe it doesn't let me show it. Maybe I just go like this. Ooh. I'm trying to get you to be able to see the page number, but that's okay. Why don't I just state it for you? So Chameleon starts on page 51. There we go. Starts on page 51 of your book. You can follow along while I read out loud. You can also follow along while I read on the screen. All right, so here we go. And I'm realizing, actually, before I start, I haven't been reading these little bits at the end of the chapters. I'm going to go ahead and start doing that for us. It's like a little separate reminder or insight into something that connects to that chapter. So if you haven't read those for chapters 1, 2, or 3, at the very end of the chapter, you can tell it's in a different font, and it talks about different events during that time in more of a fact format rather than a storytelling format. Okay? All right, chapter 4, Chameleon. Nearly 1 million people lived in Soweto. 99.9% of them were black, and then there was me. I was famous in my neighborhood just because of the color of my skin. I was so unique, people would give directions using me as a landmark. The house on Makalima Street, at the corner, you'll see a light-skinned boy. Take a right. Take a right there. Whenever the kids in the street saw me, they'd yell, Indoda Yo Mulungu, the white man. Some of them would run away. Others would call out to their parents to come look. Others would run up and try to touch me to see if I was real. It was pandemonium. What I didn't understand at the time was that the other kids genuinely had no clue what a white person was. Black kids in the township didn't leave the township. Few people had televisions. They'd seen the white police roll through, but they'd never dealt with a white person face to face, ever. As a kid, I understood that people were different colors, but in my head, white and black and brown were like types of chocolate. Dad was the white chocolate. Mom was the dark chocolate. I was the milk chocolate. But we were all just chocolate. I didn't know any of it had anything to do with race. I didn't know what race was. My mother never referred to my dad as white or to me as mixed. So when the other kids in Soweto called me white, even though I was light brown, I just thought they had their colors mixed up, like they hadn't learned them properly. I soon learned that the quickest way to bridge the race gap was through language. Soweto was a melting pot, families from different tribes and homelands. Most kids in the township spoke only their home language, but I learned several languages because I grew up in a house where there was no option but to learn them. My mom made sure English was the first language I spoke. If you're black in South Africa, speaking English is the one thing that can give you a leg up. English is the language of money. English comprehension is equated with intelligence. If you're looking for a job, English is the difference between getting the job or staying unemployed. If you're standing in the dock, English is the difference between getting off with a fine or going to prison. After English, Tosa was what we spoke around the house. When my mother was angry, she'd fall back on her home language. As a naughty child, I was well versed in Tosa threats. They were the first phrases I picked up mostly for my own safety. Phrases like Ninzika, Kubetha, and Loco, I'll knock you upside the head, or Sinenge, Nindini, Somtawana, you idiot of a child. It's a very passionate language. Outside of that, my mother picked up different languages here and there. She learned Zulu because it's similar to Tosa. She spoke German because of my father. She spoke Afrikaans because it's useful to know the language of your oppressor. So, though, she learned in the streets. Living with my mom, I saw how she used language to cross boundaries, handle situations, navigate the world. We were in a shop once, and the shopkeeper right in front of us turned to his security guard and said in Afrikaans, Volg die swartes net no steal who eats. I might be saying that wrong. Follow those blacks in case they steal something. My mother turned around and said in beautiful, fluent Afrikaans, Hoekam volk. Oh gosh, this I cannot say. But why don't you follow these blacks so you can help them find what they're looking for? Ah, jammer, he said, apologizing in Afrikaans. Then, this was the funny thing. He didn't apologize for being racist. He merely apologized for aiming his racism at us. Oh, I'm so sorry, he said. I thought you were like the other blacks. You know how they love to steal. I learned to use language like my mother did. I would simulcast, give you the program in your own tongue. I'd get suspicious looks from people just walking down the street. Where are you from, they'd ask. I'd reply in whatever language they addressed me in, using the same accent that they used. There would be a brief moment of confusion, and then the suspicious look would disappear. Oh, okay, I thought you were a stranger. We're good then. It became a tool that served me my whole life. One day, as a young man, I was walking down the street and a group of Zulu guys was walking behind me, closing in on me, and I could hear them talking to one another about how they're going to mug me. Asibambe le auti yol mulangu. Fuma nagfa mina ningzo kwamuka. Oh my gosh, I am so not saying this right. Let's get this white guy. You go to his left and I'll come up behind him. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't run. So I just spun around really quick and said, and I'm not going to be able to say that, so we're going to turn the page. You guys, why don't we just mug someone together? I'm ready. Let's do it. They looked shocked for a moment, and then they started laughing. Oh, sorry, dude. We thought you were something else. We weren't trying to take anything from you. We were just trying to steal from white people. Have a good day, man. They were ready to do me violent harm until they felt we were part of some tribe. And then we were cool. That and so many other smaller incidences in my life made me realize that language, even more than color, defines who you are to people. I became a chameleon. My color didn't change, but I could change your perception of my color. I didn't look like you, but if I spoke like you, I was you. As apartheid was coming to an end, South Africa's elite private schools started, accepting children of all colors. My mother's company offered scholarships for underprivileged families, and she managed to get me into Maryvale College, an expensive private Catholic school. Classes taught by nuns, mass on Fridays, the whole bit. I started preschool there when I was 3, primary school when I was 5. In my class, we had all kinds of kids: black kids, white kids, Indian kids, colored kids. Most of the white kids were pretty well off. Every child of color pretty much wasn't. But because of the scholarships, we all sat at the same table. We wore the same maroon blazers, the same gray slacks and skirts. We had the same books. We had the same teachers. There was really no racial separation. Every clique was racially mixed. Kids still got teased and bullied, but it was over usual kid stuff, being fat or being skinny, being tall or being short, being smart or being dumb. I don't remember anybody being teased about their race. I didn't learn to put limits on what I was supposed to like or not like. I had a wide berth to explore myself. I had crushes on white girls. I had crushes on black girls. Nobody asked me what I was. I was Trevor. It was a wonderful experience to have, but the downside was that it sheltered me from reality. Maryvale was an oasis that kept me from the truth. A comfortable place where I could avoid making a tough decision. But the real world doesn't go away. Racism exists. People are getting hurt, and just because it's not happening to you doesn't mean it's not happening. At some point, you have to choose, black or white. Pick a side. You can try to hide from it. You can say, oh, I don't pick sides. But at some point, life will force you to pick a side. At the end of 6th grade, I left Maryville to go to H.A. Jack Primary, a government school. I had to take an aptitude test before I started, and based on the results of the test, the school counselor told me, you're going to be in the smart classes, the A classes. I showed up for the first day of school and went to my classroom. Of the 30 or so kids in my class, almost all of them were white. There was one Indian kid, maybe 1 or 2 black kids, and me. Then recess came. We went out on the playground and black kids were everywhere. It was an ocean of black, like someone had opened a tap and all the black had come pouring out. I was like, where were they all hiding? The white kids I'd met that morning, they went in one direction. The black kids went in another direction, and I was left standing in the middle, totally confused. I did not understand what was happening. I was 11 years old, and it was like I was seeing my country for the first time. In the townships, you don't see segregation because everyone is black. In the white world, anytime my mother took me to a white church, we were the only black people there, and my mom didn't separate herself from anyone. She didn't care. She'd go right up, sit with the white people. And at Maryvale, the kids were mixed up and hanging out together. Before that day, I had never seen people being together and yet not together, occupying the same space yet choosing not to associate with each other in any way. In an instant, I could feel how the boundaries were drawn. Groups moved in colored patterns, across the yard, up the stairs, down the hall. It was insane. I looked over at the white kids I'd met that morning. 10 minutes earlier, I'd thought I was at school where they were a majority. Now I realized how few of them there actually were. I stood there awkwardly by myself in this no man's land in the middle of the playground. Luckily, I was rescued by the Indian kid from my class, a guy named Thiessen Thiele. Thiessen was one of the few Indian kids in school. He noticed me, another oblivious outsider, right away. He ran over to introduce himself. Hello, fellow anomaly. You're in my class. Who are you? What's your story? We started talking and hit it off. He took me under his wing, the artful dodger, to be my wildered Oliver. Through our conversation, it came up that I spoke several African languages, and Thiessen thought a colored kid speaking black languages was the most amazing trick. He brought me over to a group of black kids. Say something, he told them, and he'll show you he understands you. One kid said something in Zulu, and I replied to him in Zulu. Everyone cheered. Another kid said something in Tosa, and I replied to him in Tosa. Everyone cheered. For the rest of recess, Thiessen took me around to different black kids on the playground. Show them your trick. Do your language thing. The black kids were fascinated. It wasn't common to find a white or colored person who spoke African languages. The fact that I did speak them immediately endeared me into the black kids. How come you speak our languages? They asked. Because I'm black, I said, like you. You're not black. Yes, I am. No, you're not. Have you not seen yourself? They were confused at first because of my color. They thought I was a colored person. But speaking the same languages meant that I belonged to their tribe. It just took them a moment to figure it out. It took me a moment, too. At some point, I turned to one of them and said, Hey, how come I don't see you guys in any of my classes? It turned out they were in the B classes, which also happened to be the black classes. That same afternoon, I went back to the A classes, and by the end of the day, I realized that they weren't for me. Suddenly, I knew who my people were, and I wanted to be with them. I went to see the school counselor. I'd like to switch over, I told her. I'd like to go to the B classes. She was confused. Oh, no, she said. I don't think you want to do that. Why not? Because those kids are, No, I don't know. What do you mean? Look, she said, you're a smart kid. You don't want to be in that class. But aren't the classes the same? English is English. Math is math. Yeah, but those kids are going to hold you back. But surely there must be some smart kids in the B class. No, there aren't. But all my friends are there. You don't want to be friends with those kids. Yes, I do. We went back and forth. Finally, she gave me a stern warning. You do realize the effect this will have on your future. You do understand what you're giving up. This will impact the opportunities you'll have to open to you for the rest of your life. I'll take that chance. I moved to the B classes with the black kids. I decided I'd rather be held back with people I liked than move ahead with the people I didn't know. Being at H.J. Jack made me realize I was black. But before that recess, I'd never had to choose. But when I was forced to choose, I chose black. The world saw me as colored, but I didn't spend my life looking at myself. I spent my life looking at other people. I saw myself as the people around me, and the people around me were black. My cousins are black, my mom is black, my gran is black. I grew up black. Because I had a white father, because I'd been in a white Sunday school, I got along with the white kids, but I didn't belong with the white kids. I wasn't a part of their tribe. With the black kids embraced me. With the black kids, I wasn't constantly trying to be. With the black kids, I just was. And then this is that little section at the end of each chapter that I'm going to read that gives us a little more insight. Before apartheid, any black South African who received a formal education was likely taught by European missionaries, foreign enthusiasts eager to Christianize and westernize the natives. In the mission schools, black people learned English, European literature, medicine, and law. It's no coincidence that nearly every major black leader of the anti-apartheid movement, from Nelson Mandela to Stevie Biko, was educated by the missionaries. A knowledgeable man is a free man, or at least a man who longs for freedom. The only way to make apartheid work, therefore, was to cripple the black mind. Under apartheid, the government built what became known as Bantu schools. Bantu schools taught no science, no history, no civics. They taught metrics and agriculture, how to count potatoes, how to pave roads, chop wood, till the soil. It does not serve the Bantu to learn history and science because he is primitive, the government said. This will only mislead him, showing him pastures in which he is not allowed to graze. To their credit, they were simply being honest. Why educate a slave? Why teach someone Latin when his only purpose is to dig holes in the ground? Mission schools were told to conform to the new curriculum or shut down. Most of them shut down, and black children were forced into crowded classrooms. In dilapidated schools, often with teachers who were barely literate themselves, our parents and grandparents were taught with little sing-song lessons, the way you teach a preschooler shapes and colors. My grandfather used to sing the songs and laugh about how silly they were. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. La 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 la. We're talking about full-grown teenagers being taught this way for generations. What happened with education in South Africa offers a neat comparison of the two groups of whites who oppressed us, the British and the Afrikaners. The difference between British racism and Afrikaner racism was that at least the British gave the natives something to aspire to. If they could learn to speak correct English and dress in proper clothes, if they could anglicize and civilize themselves, one day they might be welcome in society. The Afrikaners never gave us that option. Okay. Thanks for reading with me. That was chapter 4.